trying to direct themselves towards Washington?
Yeah, it's a good question. Let me just start with a comment about the loan guarantee program at DOE. No one has probably been more involved with that program than Richard Myers from our organization in dealing with them. We would actually say that the DOE loan office is a pretty competent office. They know how to do loans. They worked at OPIC. They've actually been in that business. They understand what to do, and they're competent. They're committed. Unfortunately, they're in a system that they can't push around too easily, and that's why in my comments you heard me say if it stays in DOE, it ought to be treated like FERC or something else, created as a separate entity in there and give it its own legal counsel, give it its own project finance support for doing analysis. So I would not criticize the loan office. I would criticize the system they were put in right now. On the 50, what we had in the stimulus bill on the Senate side was $50 billion, which was not nuclear specific. It was increasing the Title 17 dollars, so it was actually for any clean energy technology. Could have been for clean coal, it would have been for wind and other renewables. To be completely honest, we weren't sure we were going to get anything in, and initially weren't even going to try on the stimulus bill. We'll try and take advantage of every opportunity to get more loan volume. So you'll fail many times because you're in Washington and you're trying to do something. But the real thing is the idea of creating an entity. As we are here today, Senator Bingaman is holding a hearing in the Senate on loan guarantee programs. And he's looking at what type of entity might you create for what purpose with what volume. We have submitted testimony for the record, and if anybody wants it, Richard can get it to you. Also, Jim Asselstein, who many of you know, is testifying at that hearing today. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Chairman Bingaman last Friday and found him quite open-minded to the need to do something to support the clean energy deployment in our country. So this is not going to be, you live in Washington long enough, what you learn is you can't take anything personal, because otherwise you really will be very unhappy every day you get up. And what we're going to do is keep pushing. What I mentioned on us trying to mobilize outside the Beltway to influence inside the Beltway is part of what we need to do, because we need a larger sound. Renewables are like a religious belief in D.C. right now. Okay? There's probably $95 billion in renewable-related loan guarantees in the stimulus bill, okay? Which would be absurd if you were a renewable person, you couldn't spend it. So clearly what we need to do is get better educated people there. We do think that Secretary Chu will be very helpful, but right now, to be honest, we think what's going on in the Senate today with Senator Bingaman is a step in the right direction, and we will continue to pursue it. You'll hear a lot about loan guarantees throughout the year. I hope at next year's meeting we can tell you what success we had as opposed to how we're continuing to bang our head against some of the walls. Other questions?
I was just wondering if you might share your views on the possible scenarios for the NRC and the makeup thereof, as we look at potential new chairman, filling vacant seats, people retiring, et cetera.
Okay. For those of you that don't kind of pay a lot of attention to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, there's 5 commissioners. They serve 5-year terms that are staggered. Normally what you have is the party in the White House gets 3 seats and the other party gets 2 seats. And normally, but not always, by a long stretch, the chairman is of the party that's in the White House. Right now you have 4 commissioners there. There's 3 Republicans and there's 1 Democrat. The chairman, Dale Klein, is a Republican. Recently, Dale did an interview and he indicated that he still had a lot of work to do. His term expires in 2011, June of 2011, and that he plans on staying as chairman or even as a commissioner. Historically, when President Bush came in, Dick Meserve was the chairman. He was a Democrat. Dick stayed until Dick decided he was leaving to become the president of the Carnegie Foundation. So you don't necessarily see a change in chair. You can, but it doesn't have to happen because fundamentally you're looking at a collegial body and you want continuity. 1 seat is open and it's a Democrat seat, so we're sure that a Democrat should fill that seat. Commissioner Pete Lyons, who's a Republican, his seat expires in the end of June of this year. It will probably also go to a Democrat because then they would have 3 Democrats on the commission. There have been no names coming out of the White House yet. So I don't have any great insight into what they're thinking. we have, as I said, provided them people that we think have the credentials and the capability. It's actually interesting. For us, a very credible, effective NRC is absolutely essential. Okay, if they're weak, if they don't do a good job, it's a problem for us because then we get too much help from Congress. So we need them to be very effective. So we don't want a weak NRC. We want a strong, credible NRC. We just want them to be efficient and do their job well. So I think we'll know, obviously, in the next few months. NRC is not normally a high priority for the incoming president. It's not a place that they jump at very quickly. But we think we should know something in the next couple of months. Len, did you have your hand up? And then we'll come to you.
This is sort of a philosophical question, but...
Why am I not surprised?
No, but everybody in creation is asking for loan guarantees. I mean, eventually the government's credit will disappear. I mean, is there any other solution you guys can come up with except walking in and saying guarantee our debt?
I'll be honest with you, in the electricity sector, I can't talk for the other sectors like the banking sector and others, but I can talk for the electric sector. I think loan guarantees is the right public policy. If we're going to move, which we are, to a much lower carbon footprint, okay, we're going to basically get much cleaner in what we're doing, okay, whether it's coal with carbon capture and storage, or it's nuclear plants, or it's lots of renewables and a smart grid, we're raising the price of electricity dramatically, okay? And electricity is sort of a lifeblood for everybody in our country. It keeps the economy buzzing, and it keeps the quality of life good. And if we're going to move to this lower carbon footprint, at the same time we actually have to build a lot of new base load or put environmental controls on, we are going to have a big hit on the price of electricity. One of the things the loan guarantees do, and I don't think the government has a lot of risk on the loan guarantees for electricity plants, because you're not building the plant because you got a loan guarantee. You're building the plant because you want to sell the electricity. You're using the loan guarantee to help you. Is it allows me, if I'm a merchant, to leverage. For a nuclear plant, our analysis shows that if I can leverage 80-20 on a merchant versus a 50-50 normal split, I can save about 4 cents a kilowatt hour on the price of that electricity, on the cost of that electricity in some cases. And that's significant. So personally, my argument is this is good public policy. It may not be as good public policy in other areas, Len, I'm not arguing that, I just don't know. But in our area, I think it actually is good public policy as we transition to a very different electricity supply system, whether you're talking about smart grid, more renewables, real clean coal with carbon capture and storage, or nuclear. They all raise the price of electricity.
Thank you. Related to the NRC,